Live from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for February 5th, 2010, the 13th legislative day of the Georgia General Assembly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Susan Hoffman.
And I'm Wandy Lawson. Coming up tonight on this program, the State DOT Board votes to rescind its decision to institute accrual-based accounting following a Senate Transportation Committee hearing.
And we're going to talk with Tom Crawford of the Georgia Report for some analysis, of course, for all the news that's under the Gold Dome. But first, our top story tonight. Governor Sonny Perdue proposes a restructuring of state government, changing some elected department heads to governor appointees. Again, the Governor Perdue, wants Georgia to move to a cabinet form of government. So rather than voters electing some of our constitutional officers, the governor would appoint them, much like the president appoints his cabinet. Perdue thinks that future governors should be able to appoint the agriculture commissioner, labor commissioner, insurance commissioner, as well as the state school superintendent. His goal, to take the politics out of policy, saying essentially that these officers wouldn't have to worry about being reelected and could make the tough choices. It could be a hard sell, though. It would take a constitutional amendment which does require a two-thirds vote in both the House and the Senate, then voter approval. House Majority Leader Jerry Keene likes the concept, which is used in many other states.
I agree with it, totally. I think it's the right thing to do. Obviously, most states, overwhelming number of states, have the exact same situation. I know it's difficult when you go to the voters and say we want to take away the ability for you to elect a certain office. But in the long run, it will produce better policy. Maybe not as good a politics. And this is one of those issues where the senators and the House members are going to be asked to vote on policy and not politics. There's really no political upside to anyone supporting this. But as I see it, why I think it's necessary, you take those four positions. They are really in charge in regulating a significant area of commerce in the state, and a very important, if you take education, certainly a very important area. All right. If you have to be elected and you have to run and campaign, I don't care who you are, the politics of that are going to enter into your policy decisions. And that would take that off the table.
Response to the governor's proposal is kind of like a checkerboard. I found some Democrats that liked it, and I found some Republicans that scoffed at it. Here's a small sampling.
Voters are independent. 2 of those offices are held by Democrats, 2 are held by Republicans. I think that's a good indication that Georgia voters know what they want in each of these positions. And you know, I think Georgians will want to continue to vote on those positions and put the people in office that they think can handle those jobs the best.
You're running for governor, and does the idea that you would have the power to appoint those positions appeal to you at all?
Well, let me say this. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Georgia governor's office right now is one of the most powerful governor's offices in the world if you look at the rankings of how much influence that office has.
There's a good checks and balance that go on right now with the current elective process, even when, say, for example, right now, the state school superintendent and the governor are in the same political party, but they have disagreements, and I think those debates are very good for the whole process. So if you have the appointed process and that superintendent is accountable to the governor and not to the people, it's a completely different dynamic, and that does cause concern.
I'm not sure why the governor thinks he should have more appointment powers. He can already appoint 2,500 positions in the state, and I think that could keep him busy. The voters want the right to choose the people that head up state government. I don't go for a model where one man or one woman is the all-powerful governor.
House Speaker David Ralston is moving very cautiously on this measure, acknowledging that Georgians have been electing these officers for a long time. If the resolution were to pass, it would appear on the fall 2010 ballot, where again, voters, you, would have the final say. In other big news today, the Department of Transportation Board votes to reverse its decision on accrual accounting. The board made the decision in January to move to the accrual counting, but today the DOT board made the decision to go back to cash-based funding under pressure from the Senate Transportation Committee. Lawmakers' Laura Fawaz is live at the Capitol with our story. Laura.
That's right, Susan. The DOT wanted to use the accrual accounting system because it would have allowed the DOT to commit funds to multi-year projects before all the money was in hand. However, in 2008, a state audit concluded accrual counting violated the DOT Commissioner, Gina Evans, and she then stopped the use of the accounting system. Yesterday, the Senate committee called DOT Board Chairman Bill Kolke to the table to discuss why the board voted to bring back the accounting system, stating it was unconstitutional.
There's an old country song that comes to my mind that says, "What was I thinking?" So tell me why that y'all made that action and see if we can understand it better.
The idea of being able to go to accrual accounting would give the department an opportunity to put more jobs out for bid, to put more people to work, and do it quicker than any other way that we could do it.
I guess you had some advice from the staff that either suggested to do this or to not. Can you explain that? Can you tell us what you were getting from some of your counsel there?
We had some input from our treasurer, and she expressed some anxiety from the standpoint of we were asking her to do something that would put her maybe in jeopardy. The other advice that we had gotten was from our legal counsel, Ms. Burgess, and pointing out some of the inconsistencies in going ahead with this.
I am extremely upset right now as to where this board has moved on this decision. And I will, for one say, I will be very, very cognizant of anybody that I vote for. I don't care if they're from the General Assembly, we're buddies, been around a long time. We're going to know that people are going to get elected to that board. They're going to look at the letter of the law, and they're going to get clarity on it before they do something like this.
I frankly am shocked. I'm flabbergasted. I can't even think of the right word to tell you how I feel when I see this kind of action being taken by the board.
After yesterday's meeting, the DOT board had decided to meet today to reconsider whether or not to go forward with the accrual accounting method. They decided not to go forward with it. Chairman of the DOT board, Bill Kolke, told me late this afternoon that the decision was made in part because there's a resolution pending in the legislature that would allow the DOT to enter multi-year projects without having all the money on hand. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Laura Fawaz.
Thanks very much, Laura. Earlier today, before that DOT board decision to reverse its original decision, House Majority Leader Jerry Keene said that he strongly hoped that the board would reconsider its action. Take a look.
Certainly the actions of the board earlier on really defying state law and the ruling of the Attorney General was disappointing. I've heard it across the aisle. I've heard it in both the House and Senate chambers. We have a new DOT commissioner who's outstanding. He came from the legislature. He understands the legislative process. And in his short time there has done a lot to repair the relationship between the General Assembly and Department of Transportation. And he deserves credit. In my opinion, when the board does something like this, it undermines the commissioner's ability to work with us. And I think Chairman Kolke yesterday stated it pretty clear that he would hope the board would revisit. They acted in haste. I would encourage the DOT board to revisit their vote. If not, then perhaps before the session is over, the General Assembly has some other options available to us legislatively. And if we feel like the board cannot really work with the legislative branch and the executive branch, perhaps we'll have to visit those.
House Speaker David Ralston agrees with the Majority Leader. He is willing to revisit the DOT governance this session if it's necessary. Again, the DOT did reverse its decision. They're going to wait to see what the legislature does.
In the Senate today, there was a vote to allow the Department of Driver Services to change a license number after the driver's license is lost, forged, or stolen. But Senator Preston Smith urged the Senate to amend Senate Bill 287 so that driver's license numbers don't have to be changed in these instances. First, Senator Judson Hill, the sponsor of SB 287.
The concept was brought to me by a constituent who had gotten a driver's license replaced. His license had been lost, and when it was replaced with the new, replaced with the same driver's license number as he had had. So this bill is an attempt to protect personal identification by requiring that if you lose your driver's license or you have it stolen, you can go to present for another driver's license. They will change the driver's license number.
There may be a situation where, you don't want your license number changed because it is linked to your bank account, your checking account, the different things that today license numbers are attached to. If you adopt this amendment and the license is lost or taken or stolen or forged, you have the option of exercising that consumer protection, having the department issue you a new license number, or if you elect to, you could have your continued license number reissued.
Senate Bill 287 passed 47-0 with the Smith amendment. It now moves over to the House. The Senate also agreed that future tax commissioners should not be able to participate in the state employee retirement system. Presenting the bill, Senator Bill Heath said county tax collectors may receive benefits through their local systems and do not need to use the ERS as well. Senate Bill 283 passed by a vote of 48-2 and now awaits House approval.
It was a very short day in the House. Only one bill on the rules calendar. HB 910 simply says the Department of Education can provide the annual gender equity report on its website rather than sending it out. Here's Representative Howard Maxwell.
All we're asking to do is allow the Board of Education to quit sending out an annual report on gender equity in schools and allow this report to be published on their internet website. It's going to save money for the Department of Education and save taxpayer dollars. If there's any questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer them. If not, I appreciate your vote on this bill, your kind consideration on this bill.
The bill, HB 910, passed 154-0, and it moves to the Senate. In other House news, Representative Bob Smith is looking for support for a measure that would prohibit lawmakers from collecting any kind of salary from a city or county in their district. Take a look.
In the spirit of the ethics environment for both the House and the Senate in Georgia, in the spirit of accountability for our members in the House and Senate in Georgia, and in the spirit of transparency for the members of the House and the Senate of Georgia, this bill will make it unlawful for any member to receive any compensation from any county or city, in which district they represent. And it will make it unlawful for the city and the county to engage in any compensation for those that represent the city or county and a district in which you represent. I hope that you'll sign this piece of legislation.
Smith's bill is one of many pieces of ethics legislation floating in the House and Senate. It will be interesting to see how it all pans out in the end.
Well, it's the end of another legislative week, and that means it's time to check in with Tom Crawford of the Georgia Report. We began this week by talking about Governor Perdue's proposal for restructuring state government.
He is going to have his floor leaders introduce a constitutional amendment next week that would have the Labor Commissioner, the Insurance Commissioner, the State School Superintendent, and the Agriculture Commissioner become appointed department heads who would work under the governor instead of running statewide for office as they've been doing for years and years and years. This is really similar to what is done in Florida and other states where the governor has sort of a cabinet of officers that report to him. It's a pretty significant restructuring he's proposing, probably the most far-reaching since Jimmy Carter reorganized state government back in the 1970s. A little odd that he waited so late in his administration to propose it, but it's a big change, and it'll stir up a lot of debate and discussion, I think.
Any indication about what's prompting it at this particular time?
I can't figure that one out. He just sort of dropped it in everybody's lap today, and it's something he has been thinking about for a while, I understand, but again, a little puzzling as to why he would wait so late in his administration to do something this far-reaching and this significant.
Well, you know, former House Speaker Glenn Richardson can't seem to keep a low profile. I understand that there is an Ethics Commission investigation underway regarding the former Speaker.
When he resigned as Speaker, he still had a little more than $200,000 worth of campaign funds that he had collected from contributors. He tried to transfer that money to a political action account or a political fund that he set up some years ago. There's some question as to whether that is legal under the state's ethics laws, and that's what the Ethics Commission is taking a look at right now. And I understand Glenn Richardson is trying to register that political fund as a nonprofit organization so that this would all fall within the confines of the law. So this is something that might get worked out eventually.
We might say that the Democrats have kept a somewhat low profile thus far, but coming out yesterday with a transportation plan of their own.
They have a fairly big proposal out there to have both a regional 1-cent sales tax to fund transportation projects at the local level, and they want to set aside some of the sales tax paid on the state's motor fuels so that it is used only for transportation purposes and doesn't just go into the general treasury to be used for other state departments. It would free up a lot of money to be used both for highways and passenger rails and even mass transit. What's significant about this is that there's some Republicans like Senator Jeff Mullis who are looking on it sympathetically and may be able to work with the Democrats to try to get something moving. They want to have a vote by 2010 this year on whether to implement these local sales taxes.
Well, we'll be certainly following that. Looking ahead to next week, understand that we might make some movement on the budget process.
Work on the amended budget for the current fiscal year has been continuing this week. The House, I think, will vote for it maybe next Wednesday and get that moving. Still left in the background, of course, is the budget for the fiscal year that starts July 1, and that might be a little bit more difficult to work out.
All right, well, it's been a long week under the Gold Dome. If nothing else, we want to thank you, Tom Crawford, for helping us wrap it up.
Thank you.
In other news, the subcommittee of the House Judiciary Non-Civil Committee met today to discuss HB 1040, a bill that would allow non-licensed caregivers to assist the disabled. Lawmakers' Alan Friedman has more.
People want to stay at home when they have disability in a lot of cases. But at the present time, the way the law states is that if you have family members that you can care for at home and take care of whether it be a feeding tube or a catheter or some wounds or things like that, as a family member you can do that now legally. But if you're not a family member, you cannot.
This bill is really about personal choice and personal responsibility. It's not any attempt to change any kind of scope of practice. It's just about a practical nature of a person being able to make a choice about the care that they have and being able to stay at home.
In this bill, neither the doctor nor the nurse who provides the training nor the agency that is providing the service is held accountable. But the provider of the service, the person that is trained to give the service, actually in this bill, the way it's written, is held accountable.
The general consensus at the meeting today was that the bill has good intentions, but that some of its details might need to be tweaked. The committee plans to hold future hearings on HB 1040, and we'll make sure to keep you posted on the bill's progress. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Alan Friedman.
And with that, it's time for another Lawmakers Flashback in honor of our 40th season.
Tonight, Representative Denmark Gruber, that name might sound familiar to you, around a long time, quite the personality. He presents a bill that would require a court order for investigators to secretly tap telephone calls.
The basic purpose of this bill is to protect the confidentiality of your telephone records. But frequently, as you know, your long-distance calls can almost furnish a diary of your daily activities. This bill is designed to protect the unauthorized invasion of your privacy by requiring that those records cannot be disclosed to others or delivered over to others in the absence of a subpoena or in the absence of your written request.
Let me make sure you understand what we're talking about, and Lord, I hope I know what I'm talking about, because the gentleman from the 99th is so eloquent, he'll surely cut me to ribbons if I slip and fall. Yes, he would do that. And you know it and I know it. And I'm shaking and I hope he doesn't know it. Now just guess what, if you're a drug dealer, narcotics, a little bit of gambling going on where you use the phone, or a little organized crime. Now, do you really think you're going to continue with business as usual when the phone company has told you that the GBI's got your phone records? Nope, nope, nope. I doubt that. You're going to fold up tent and move.
All my bill does, and all it would require, is that a judicial officer shall authorize such an injunction. If that be an impediment, there are many impediments that are written in our Bill of Rights, and our safety would have long since gone.
House Bill 904 passed 108 to 24. Denmark Gruber was well known for his prowess as a legislator. Governor Zell Miller famously said, once a bill had been Grooverized, it was either without defect or full of defect, whatever was Gruber's goal. This has been a Lawmakers Flashback.
Just don't make them like that anymore, do they?
No, they don't. And he's just the sweetest Southern accent. He could just read you a book, read you a story from the South, and you would literally drift off to sleep. For more Lawmakers flashbacks, please remember to keep watching Lawmakers, because we're only going to have them right here. Can't get them anywhere else.
In other news, in honor of Black History Month, we're proud to bring you some history through the eyes of your state legislators. Lawmakers Keosha Jackson brings us this Black History moment.
The most memorable moment was in the mid-50s, and our Cub Scout troop was down here and visiting, and it was the day they unveiled the new state flag. And there was a bit of a silence from some of the adults, including my late mother. But as we left the Capitol, there was an old black gentleman, and he had a box, and he had boiled peanuts, and he had 11 bags left. And I'll never forget, my mother bought every one of those bags of peanuts. And I turned to my mother and I said, "That was $1.10. Why did you do that?" And she said, "Because that flag was made to hurt that man."
When Joe told me that story, after he won his seat here in the House, I was absolutely touched. I cannot describe to you the feeling I had after he explained to me how his mother explained the impact of that flag on that gentleman who was selling those peanuts and what it meant to people who are of African American and minority descent.
The 1956 flag was changed in 2001 under the leadership of Governor Roy Barnes.
This has been a Black History Moment. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Keosha Jackson.
Nice job, Keosha. Well, the first week of February turned out to be the first 5-day legislative week for the Georgia General Assembly, giving lawmakers plenty of time to unveil initiatives on education, transportation, conservation, and a host of other issues. I'm sorry, we're having technical problems with that tape at the moment. Hope to be able to bring you that in just a few moments.
And in other news, legislation was introduced in the House this morning that would require the installation of an ignition interlock device on the vehicles of first-time convicted drunk drivers. An interlock is a device that prevents a legally drunk person from operating the vehicle. Lawmakers Adam Bridges has our story.
The purpose of this bill is to reduce the number of folks who are driving under the influence for second and third convictions. With the interlock device, we'll be able to identify sooner those people who are more likely and who actually do reoffend.
Senator Donzella James was also there to support the anti-drunk driving legislation.
3 days before I was sworn in, my teenage son, a senior in high school at the time, left home to go to the store for my husband. He got 2 miles from my house when a 5-time DUI offender in a commercial vehicle crashed into his car and took his life.
Senator James said she will work fervently with Representative Knox to get this legislation passed.
I'm going to start lobbying right now on the Senate side for it, because if you can help deter those who drink and drive and become impaired and choose to drive, maybe since they can't start their car, they will know that they need help.
The legislation was just filed in the House this morning, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on its progress. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Adam Bridges.
If passed, this bill would make Georgia the 13th state with a requirement for all first-time offenders to have an interlock installed.
And we're sorry we had a little technical problem with our weekly wrap-up tape just a few moments ago. We want to bring you just an update of some of the issues that were under the Gold Dome this week.
The system of property tax assessments, notifications, and appeals.
It is the most regressive tax out there because there is no relationship between a person's ability to pay and the tax itself.
The House agreed that banks and borrowers should be allowed new loans even if the value of the business drops well below what it was. The Senate Judiciary Committee passed a resolution allowing Georgians to opt out of federal health care reform.
The people of Georgia don't like to be told by big government what to do.
On Tuesday, the House Transportation Committee met for the first time this session. statewide strategic transportation plan. House Republicans outlined the details of a new 25-member committee that will meet to score legislation on 5 Republican criteria. And the House opened.
All right, we're sorry that we weren't able to get you that tape, but I have to tell you, had some great highlights of the week in it. Moving along, it might have been Go Red for Women Day in support of the fight against heart disease for women, but heart attack survivor Senator Valencia Say had a few words for her male colleagues. After all, she'd urged them to wear red ties all week long. All right. One of the things that she's been doing is going to the well each and every day and reminding all of the colleagues in the Senate that if they are going to come to the Senate on Friday, they're going to have to be wearing red.
Come on up here, because I want to know which one of you all can wear this red dress. Now, I want you in a red dress. Now, I told you, if you fail to wear your red tie, Paul,
yeah, I think
it's the side that's just right for all those that fail to do it. Now, either you can wear that red dress or this red dress. Which dress will it be? You're going to wear that. All right. I'm trying to make sure that my heart attack leads me to continue to tell people about this deadly disease so that we can minimize the deaths occurred by heart disease.
And each year, more than 460,000 women in the U.S. die from heart disease. The American Heart Association encourages women to avoid smoking, exercise regularly, maintain a healthy body mass index, and keep their weight, blood pressure, and cholesterol under control. And with those few tips, we are joined by Ricky Bevington. She's got news from all around the state. Take it away, Ricky.
Thank you very much, Nwandi, and good evening to you. Happy Friday. U.S. Senator Saxby Chambliss is drawing some sharp criticism for his comments this week concerning gays in the military. Chambliss testified before the House Armed Services Committee that he is against removing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy that allows gays to serve, just not openly. Chambliss said changing the policy could cause other rules to be broken. Well, several conservative bloggers in Georgia slammed Chambliss on peachpundit.com. Among those conservative voices, 29-year-old Jason Nye. He told GPB today that the Georgia senator is out of touch with young people, and he said it's only a matter of time before things change. It has been 2 years since a deadly blast rocked a coastal sugar refinery. And this morning, employees at Savannah's Imperial Sugar marked the explosion, which killed 14 workers. The memorial this year was more private than last year's very public commemoration. The company had a private memorial breakfast. Federal officials have blamed lax security measures for that tragedy. Lawsuits in that case are scheduled to be heard this year. And the University of Georgia's athletic director may be the only one getting a raise this year, and it's a hefty one. Damon Evans was set to make $460,000 next year, but under a new contract, he will get $550,000. This deal also includes a $250,000 bonus after 5 years. Other staff and faculty at UGA are not getting raises, but President Michael Adams is defending this one. He says that this raise puts Evans' pay in line with other athletic directors in the Southeastern Conference. There is always more Georgia news at our website. It's gpb.org. Follow us on Twitter at GPB News. I'm Ricky Bevington and Nwandi.
All right. Thanks so much, Ricky.
Lawmakers will not be seen tomorrow or Sunday because, of course, the Georgia General Assembly is going to be in recess for the weekend. We'll be back on Monday with all the latest from under the Gold Dome. That's at 7 p.m. And if you've missed any part of this program, please tune in when Lawmakers repeats Monday morning, not tomorrow morning, but Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. And coming up next on GPB, it's Georgia Traveler. Tonight's episode features a book tour of Georgia. Again, that's next here on GPB.
That's going to do it for our program. This is the 13th legislative day of the 2010 session of the Georgia General Assembly. I'm Nwandi Lawson.
I'm Susan Hoff, and be sure to join us Monday for Lawmakers at 7 p.m. only here on GPB. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Good night.
Funding for Lawmakers comes from
the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of Georgia's business community, over 4,000 members strong, working with lawmakers for over 90 years to make sure that our state remains a place where companies thrive.
And by supporters of Georgia Public Broadcasting. Thank you.
This has been a production of Georgia Public Broadcasting. This is